and together we took action. States that have taken the strongest stand against tobacco are already seeing the benefits. Better health, bustling economies, brighter futures. Oklahoma has made progress too. But we can do more. Tobacco still harms Oklahomans at home and at work. It's poisoning and addicting our children. It's burdening our healthcare industry and costing Oklahomans billions. Poorer health, higher healthcare costs. Needless businesses' expenses from lost productivity and extra sick days. Whether you use tobacco or not, we all pay a price. Until now. By modernizing our tobacco policies, we can reverse the terrible toll of tobacco. We can protect our kids from the industry's lies and deception. We can safeguard our families and workforce from secondhand smoke. We can help businesses boom and our economy roar. We can take the health and wealth of our great state to new heights. Most importantly, we can save tens of thousands of Oklahoma lives along the way. 10 years ago, Tobacco Stops With Me joined the fight against tobacco. Today, the gloves are coming off. Our plan for the next 10 years will take on tobacco like never before. With relentless commitment and unwavering purpose, together we will accelerate positive change, and together we will improve the health and quality of life of every Oklahoman. A brighter future is waiting. Join us and take action today. Tobacco stops with me.
Outstanding. Hello and welcome to everyone. My name is Don Milliken and I am the chair of TSET. I was appointed by the state treasurer, and this podium is really short for me. Serving in my second year as chair and my sixth year on the board of directors. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow board members, three of whom are here today. Well, wait a minute. Yes, Bruce Benjamin is here. There's Bruce. Curtis Knowles is here, and Michelle Stevens is here. Also acknowledging Jim Gephardt, Casey Kilbrain, Blaine, and Kenneth Rowe. Each member of the TSET board serves for 7 years, and we do not take our civic duty lightly. In 2000, Oklahoma voters created TSET with dedicated funds from the Master Settlement Agreement with the tobacco industry. The voters charged TSET with improving the health of Oklahomans for generations to come. We and the board and staff live this mission every day. Each project funded or grant awarded moves us a small step forward as we know that this work is indeed making a difference. We also know that much work remains, and we plan to move forward with like-minded partners to give Oklahomans the best chance to live longer, healthier lives. I'd like to take a moment to welcome our Oklahoma City Mayor, David Holt, who is with us here today. If you would stand. Thank you for coming. I'd also like to recognize the 36 partners that have already joined us, as you can see on the screen. Mayor Holt being one of those. Thank you. Would representatives of those organizations please stand so we can acknowledge you? Thanks to each of you and to your organizations. As we move forward and gain momentum, we welcome all organizations that value health to join us in this growing partnership. And thanks to each of you in the audience for attending today and recognizing a milestone and to share the vision of a healthier Oklahoma. 2018 marks the 10th anniversary of the Tobacco Stops With Me public education program. The launch of Tobacco Stops With Me marked Oklahoma's first fully funded comprehensive tobacco control and prevention program, a program that incorporated all the pillars of best practices as outlined by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This educational campaign focused on the dangers of secondhand smoke, the manipulative practices of the tobacco industry, and co-branding the secondhand smoke messages with the free cessation services of the Oklahoma Tobacco Helpline. The results have been transformative. Tobacco Stops With Me has helped accelerate the largest reduction of the adult smoking rate in the state's history and has seen the youth smoking rate cut in half. While the nation has also seen declining smoking rates, an independent study of the TSET's investment in smoking cessation revealed that Oklahoma's smoking rate has dropped at 10 times the rate of similar states around us. While TSET has become the largest funder of public grants in the last decade, success is not ours alone, of course. Our partners from across the state are helping reduce the toll on tobacco on our communities, on our families, and on our youth for the last several decades. Because of the results of work of public health, because those results are often witnessed in decades and generations, we must take time to celebrate progress and tell each other, good job. We must acknowledge wins, like the recent $1 cigarette and little cigar tax increase passed by the legislature. Research shows that you can actually calculate the number of smokers who will quit when you raise taxes by $1. The tax increase has resulted in an 85% year-over-year increase in registrants up to the Tobacco Helpline. Even more important, and you can compute this, the tax increase will keep 17,300 youth from ever using cigarettes. Thank you to all of those who helped advocate on behalf of the health of Oklahomans. From those in this room to the legislators, frankly, and their courage, who supported this bill at the Capitol. But we cannot declare victory yet. We know that for every Oklahoman that dies from tobacco, 30 more suffer from smoking-related chronic illness. The fight is definitely not over. We must prepare ourselves to tackle the remaining tobacco scourge on our public's health. We must redouble our efforts to protect Oklahomans from secondhand smoke, to encourage all remaining tobacco users to quit, and to create a culture where our children never start a lifelong addiction to tobacco. We know our enemy in this fight. The tobacco industry spends $172 million every year in Oklahoma to market its addictive and deadly tobacco products. Their business plan is to addict as many young people as they possibly can who will become lifelong tobacco users. It is hard to call something pure evil. The tobacco industry is pure evil, and we are in a battle against it today. We are fighting against an opponent with deep pockets, and that can sometimes feel overwhelming. But we must not be discouraged. We must remember those in our lives that we could not save. I think about my own father, who was addicted lifelong to tobacco and tried to quit many times, and who died at my age from congestive heart failure. We must remember those, however, that we can still save. Your children, my children, your grandchildren, my grandchildren. I want them to live a life free from tobacco use, a life free from addiction to tobacco, a life free from tobacco-filled work environments. No one should be surrounded in their work by cancer-causing chemicals in the form of secondhand smoke. I know that each of the TSET board members and staff have their own personal stories about how tobacco has negatively affected their family members, friends, and loved ones. I know you do too. Those stories drive us. The science about the harms of tobacco use and dangers of secondhand smoke bolster and strengthen us. The recent federal racketeering victory against the tobacco industry emboldens us. We can do this. We can win this fight. We, the TSET board and staff, our partners, and all health-minded individuals are resolute in our efforts to provide all Oklahomans with tobacco-free work environments where we live, where we work, where we learn, where we play, where we pray. Today, we set the stage to build on our successes. We and our partners will be the engine that drives the biggest public health change ever seen in Oklahoma. With this effort, we can save thousands of Oklahoma lives, we can save businesses millions of dollars, and we can save our healthcare industry tens of millions of dollars, and we have a plan. We have the momentum, and we have the will to take the necessary steps to protect Oklahoma workers and children from secondhand smoke, to prevent our kids and young adults from becoming tobacco users and addicted to tobacco, and to support those who are attempting to quit. Today, we announce the work begins on cutting Oklahoma's adult smoking rate in half in the next 10 years. We can do this if we set our minds and our hearts to it. We in Oklahoma can do what we set out to do. And we're going to set out to do this. And I know you're all going to join in this effort with all your heart. Now let me introduce John Woods, who's our TSET Executive Director, and he'll give you an overview of what is truly an audacious plan and an audacious goal to improve the health of Oklahoma. John?
Thank you to Don and to our board, and I'm pleased to share with each of you what our board has set out as what I think are proven policy measures that can indeed bring Oklahoma to the moonshot goal of reducing the burden of smoking in Oklahoma and cutting it in half over the next decade. Before I do that, I do want to thank two of my colleagues that are here, the Commissioner of Oklahoma Department of Health, Commissioner Bates, it's good to have you join us, and the Commissioner for the Department of Mental Health, Commissioner Terry White, it's good to have you here as well, and thank you for your partnerships and what we do to benefit the health of Oklahomans in all ways and in all forms. I very much appreciate your partnership in that. But how do we reduce the smoking rate in Oklahoma over the next 10 years? We do it through proven policy measures that we know work and bring Oklahoma into the 21st century. So first, we know that Oklahoma has loopholes in our clean indoor air laws. When the original law passed in 2006, it was the most comprehensive in the nation. But today, our clean air protections are lagging behind comparative states, comparative cities across the U.S. Cities in Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and some in Arkansas are 100% smoke-free, including all restaurants, all bars, all clubs. We know that businesses are not closing their doors because of smoke-free laws in other states. And even in Oklahoma, there are smoke-free bars because owners have made the switch to protect employees and their customers. And those businesses are thriving. Our work with our grantee, Free the Night, has helped many bar owners confirm that customers prefer smoke-free. Bar owners tell us that they wish that they would have gone smoke-free sooner, and they are busier than ever. Many are reluctant to go smoke-free, however, because understandably, they want a level playing field. They want smoke-free across the board, and that's something we want too. Oklahoma needs 100% comprehensive smoke-free policy in our state, and now it's time. If you look at the map in front of me, Oklahoma and Tennessee are both solid gray. That's because the tobacco industry crafted policies that have been written into our laws called preemption. Preemption prevents local communities from having clean indoor air laws that are stricter than state law. We know that there are communities and business owners that support smoke-free laws, but they can't protect their own communities without changing state law. There are 40,000 workers across Oklahoma that are exposed to secondhand smoke every day at their jobs. They're working in an environment that is hazardous to their health. They develop lung cancer at a rate up to 30% higher than the rest of us, simply because of where they work. Hardworking Oklahomans deserve better. Removing loopholes in Oklahoma's clean indoor air laws would protect all Oklahomans from cancer-causing chemicals and secondhand smoke and could help decrease smoking by more than 3%. We know this: smoke-free laws help smokers quit. They help people from ever starting to smoke. They reduce the amount of cigarettes a person smokes, and they help quitters quit permanently. So this is how we are going to share this information with Oklahomans, a message of comprehensive smoke-free.
It used to be okay in teachers' lounges. It used to be okay in maternity wards. It was okay in sporting arenas, college campuses, and office spaces. But now that we understand the deadly dangers of secondhand smoke, that's not okay anymore. So why is it okay that thousands of employees are exposed to it every day at work? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's protect hardworking Oklahomans. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
Smoke is smoke, and now is the time to address that policy for all Oklahomans. And that includes e-cigarette aerosol. And now that we have medical marijuana on the books, we need to make sure that we protect everyone from with clean indoor air, regardless of the type of smoke, and create 100% comprehensive smoke-free laws in our state. Policy number 2, we know that we can prevent 223,000 premature deaths by cut smoking by more than 10% simply by raising the legal minimum age to purchase tobacco from 18 to 21. The tobacco industry is actively looking for replacement smokers because their product kills half of those who use it. That recruiting starts with our children and young adults. 95% of smokers start before the age of 21. Currently, more than 20% of the United States population is covered by tobacco 21 laws, and it is making a difference across the United States. Oklahoma needs to join those states and more than 350 cities and counties that have already raised the age to purchase to 21 years old. Item number 3, another step that we must take to protect our youth is to prohibit smoking in vehicles with children present. It's amazing that in the 21st century, with all we know about the harms of secondhand smoke, that it's still allowed to expose our youth to the harms of secondhand smoke in vehicles. The U.S. Surgeon General says there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. The EPA says smoking just half a cigarette in a car puts the air quality at 10 times what is considered hazardous. Smoking in cars with kids increases secondhand smoke exposure, and with that comes higher risk of ear infections, asthma, and for children younger than the age of 6, a higher risk of pneumonia and bronchitis. Oklahomans care about our kids. We use car seats. We encourage immunizations. This is the next step that we can take to protect our kids, and this is the story of how we will share that.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
So both of those Tobacco Stops With Me commercials will begin airing in November, and it is just part of a major effort to educate the public, our legislators, our leaders in our state about what we can do to make a difference. But there are even more items that we need to see happen in the next decade to see that reduction. Item number 4, I know many of you have seen news stories and articles about flavored tobacco. From menthol to cherry, cotton candy, to gummy bear, to hundreds of flavors in between. The FDA banned flavored cigarettes, excluding menthol, but we still see flavors in little cigars and smokeless tobacco and in e-liquids. Tobacco companies use flavors in 3 ways: to make tobacco more pleasant, to get kids interested in trying tobacco, and to make more money and to keep people addicted. We don't have to tolerate those antics anymore in 21st century Oklahoma. We can ban menthol and flavored tobacco products and protect thousands of Oklahoma kids from a lifetime of addiction, disease, and earlier premature death. By banning menthol and other flavors, we can expect to see smoking reduced by 10% over the next decade on that issue alone. And item number 5, another thing our state must do, and I'm so glad that Commissioner Terry White is here today, is to reduce the illegal sale of tobacco to minors. Federal funding to our State Department of Mental Health is tied to the compliance rate of retailers not selling to minors. In this past year, we've seen those illegal sales to minors increase. A state has to have a non-compliance rate of no more than 20%. This past year, it was at 18%. It's inexcusable by our local retailers. Our state cannot afford to lose millions of dollars in federal funding to shore up our mental health department. Oklahoma can do more. There are a variety of policies that can reduce youth access to tobacco through retail sources. We need stronger enforcement of penalties for selling to those that are underage. Many tools are in the toolbox for compliance. We must strengthen that enforcement against underage tobacco sales, and we need to use them. Item number 6. Now, we know that we've all talked about tobacco taxes a lot in the past year. I'm going to talk about them again today. Don earlier mentioned that calls to our tobacco quit line have increased since the cigarette tax took place by 85%. We know that a pinch in that price is prompting people to think about quitting smoking. It's keeping young people from starting to use tobacco. We have the years of data and experience from other states to know that price increases are effective. They're difficult to achieve. We know that firsthand. And that's why we need to set the expectation now that additional price increases need to be considered over the next 10 years. Raising the price of cigarettes within the next decade again by $1.50 would encourage 30,000 adults to quit smoking and would cut adult smoking by 20%. That additional price increase within the next decade would reduce smoking by additional 15 to 17%, saving our state $1.2 billion in future health care costs. And like many policies we discussed, it protects kids and keeps them from ever starting to smoke. Raising taxes on other tobacco products, which we did not do this last round, such as smokeless tobacco, can have similar effects. All of these changes will save lives, protect kids, and help smokers quit. And we're prepared for that. Through the Oklahoma Tobacco Quit Line, we offer 24/7 support for those that want to quit. All these policies I've mentioned, when combined, get us closer to the goal of cutting smoking in half in the next decade. Much of this work is about fixing policies inserted into Oklahoma laws purposefully by the tobacco industry over previous decades, which has been admitted in corrective statements that they had to issue, that they've lied, they've misled, and they've worked together to commit fraud. And this makes it a perfect time in state law that we should also remove the ability for smokers to claim employee discrimination in hiring practices. Smoking should not be on par with legal protections in the same way that race, sex, or religion is. That was laws that were specifically inserted by the tobacco industry to favor their industry. The addiction to tobacco does not have to be met by lighting a cigarette and exposing coworkers and patrons to secondhand and thirdhand smoke. Smoke-free workplaces protect non-smokers from passive smoking, but encourages smokers to quit and stay quit. So we've mentioned today 7 sensible policies that are all possible with the will of Oklahoma people behind them. With the support of this partnership, those of you in this audience and Oklahomans across the state, we can make Oklahoma the place where people want to live, the place businesses want to come, and reduce the burden of tobacco in our healthcare system and on our households. Because whether you use tobacco or not, it costs each Oklahoma household $815 in taxes each year for the addiction of tobacco nationwide. The good news is we know Oklahomans support these efforts. 71% of Oklahomans support smoke-free public workplaces. More than 80% of Oklahomans support prohibiting smoking in vehicles with minors. Oklahomans of all ages have the right to breathe clean indoor air, to live healthier lives, and together I know we can get there. We can bring Oklahoma into the 21st century. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Michelle Stevens, a mom and a TSET board member, to talk to you about TSET's commitment when it comes to this goal over the next 10 years and what we will be joining our partners in doing to help get us over the finish line. Michelle.
Thank you, John. In addition to saving lives and protecting children, policies keep Oklahoma competitive. We compete with our border states for businesses and jobs, and many of them are already moving forward with tobacco control and prevention efforts. To stay competitive and grow and expand our economy, we must have a healthy and educated workforce. Tobacco does not support that effort. We must create an environment that lowers the cost to businesses and reduces the burden on our healthcare system. Tobacco does exactly the opposite. It increases the cost to our businesses and contributing unnecessary stress on our healthcare system. We want a healthy and prosperous future for Oklahoma, and we must commit to modernizing our tobacco control policies. At TSET, we and our partners know the scope of work that must be done to stop the pipeline of young people using tobacco and help other tobacco users quit. To keep Oklahoma competitive and to prepare our state for a tobacco-free future, I am super excited to announce that the TSET Board of Directors has approved additional work and additional funding for programs that keep young people from beginning tobacco use and work to end the generational cycle of nicotine addiction. Yeah, it's worth clapping. Additional work funded by TSET will also include working with healthcare clinics, dental offices, healthcare providers, and other medical professionals to remove barriers to proven cessation efforts offered by the Oklahoma Tobacco Helpline. We will target specific populations that have a higher than average rate of tobacco use. This increased financial investment will assist us in reaching populations that are most adversely impacted by the burden of tobacco, while supporting our core mission of Tobacco Stops With Me. When combined, these additional resources for our youth, along with the sensible policies John just highlighted, will become a beacon of health that will draw our next generation of Oklahomans away from the cycle of tobacco use. Over the next year, TSET will develop these programs with the expectation of increased investment as early as next fiscal year. Our communities and our commitment, leveraged with our existing grant programs, will equate to millions of additional dollars focused on reducing the burden of tobacco, ultimately benefiting our children, our most vulnerable populations, our healthcare system, our businesses, and our state. We know that changing Oklahoma's culture takes time, And we know we are up against a well-organized industry with very deep pockets. But what we have is something they don't have. We have passion, don't we? Yeah. And we have an army of partners, as you all can attest to today, that have joined in this state to work on this cause. Now, we need to enlist more Oklahomans to show support for these efforts. Today, we need each of you in the audience, or those watching on Facebook Live, or seeing news reports, or reading an article, to go to stopswithme.com. Again, go to stopswithme.com and show your support by adding your name to a growing number of Oklahomans who want a healthier state. Please take the time to do this. It's vital to show our fellow Oklahomans that each of us has a stake in the effort to prevent tobacco use from taking one more life from our friends and our families. The time for us to stand idly by and watch our children travel down the road of tobacco addiction is over. Together we can shape the future for ourselves and our children and Oklahomans. The tobacco industry may still sell the product that kills over half of the people who use it, but it will no longer include our children and our friends and family members as part of the cost of doing business. I am proud to say we are standing here today to fight against tobacco. And as you can see, we are standing together for a healthier future for our children and for Oklahoma.
So thank you, Michelle. We have computers, because we want to catch you while we can, that are here in the audience for you to add your name of support to Stops With Me. And I'm really privileged today to be joined by a great group of students across Oklahoma from 4-H. And so will you blue shirts in the audience please stand so everyone can see you? So glad to have you here. .4-H is one of many great organizations for Oklahoma that's helping our youth, and they are going to lead the way as we move into a break to head to the computers. Those of you that have your smartphones, you can sign up as well, but they're going to lead the crowd in that. We're going to have a brief break, and we'll come back for the rest of the conference for those of you that are attending. But I hope you're excited to join with me for what the next 10 years in Oklahoma looks like. Thank you so much. We will see you in 5 more minutes when we have our first speaker, Cynthia Hallett, President and CEO of Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights. We have a great day of learning ahead. Thank you all for coming to the press conference.